about onshore wind and what they're calling a rebellion. I mean, people like yourself, people like Michael Gove, people like Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, all saying that actually the Prime Minister's wrong on reintroducing the ban on onshore wind. You may have a very valid point. A lot of people would agree with you. But, I mean, how damaging is it for the government to have... I mean, if you get your own way, that would force the Prime Minister into another U-turn, which politically would be extremely dangerous, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I literally don't recognise the way this is being reported. I mean, first of all, we're in politics. The idea is you debate ideas, and I don't know why these things are turned into as if it's... sometimes you read the newspapers and it's turned into something which it certainly... isn't. Secondly, we already have a lot of onshore wind. We've taken a decision as a country primarily to invest in offshore wind. For example, one day, a couple of weeks ago, over half our energy was produced by, for the entire nation, was produced by offshore wind, which is remarkable. But it's always been possible to build some onshore wind. There's a proposal to look at, for example, whether or not local communities should have the last say on these things. Like, these are just policy ideas. Everything doesn't have to be a row as you describe it, and there certainly is no row here. Why not look at policy and work out the best way forward? The Prime Minister said, and he's absolutely right about this, just recently, when you move forward with these things, it's got to be done with local consent, and we'll always look at the best way to do that. Simple as that. It certainly doesn't make it a row.
Mr. Shapps, we haven't got long with you. I just wanted to ask you your reaction to the now 8 Tory MPs that have now said they're going to be standing down at the next general election. Why are they going?
Well, every election people stand down, people's lives change, and they decide to move on and do something else. I suspect you may have identified a 9th, although it hasn't been announced, with my colleague Matt Hancock, based on your conversation before I came on a moment ago. People move on. This is the way it works in politics. And I can't remember a parliament where people haven't said, there's some strange trend going on here, some people are moving on. That's just what happens. Sometimes people decide to do something else.
But some of them, like Deanna Davison, only came in the 2019 intake. I mean, is this a case of jumping before they're pushed in those red wall constituencies?
It was ever thus. I mean, there are always people who only serve a single term. I bet I could find examples from every single parliament. I just don't. Again, it's one of these stories you start to read about, and then everyone else writes up the same story.
Well,
but actually, there are just times when people move on.
But that's the problem, isn't it, that you've got in government, especially after being in government for such a long time, that, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, it's just, to me, seems like normal churn, right? The figures are just normal churn. However, all of these things just build up and build up and build up because it's like everyone's smelling blood in the water a little bit. And that's very difficult to turn around, isn't it, as a government?
Well, look, I just take issue. You're right. There are sort of 8 or 9 MPs who've said they're going to stand down, but that happens every election. That'll be for a whole variety of different reasons. I genuinely think that, with the ideas that we've got to take the country forward, in particular right now, wrapping our arms around people with, the cost of energy because of Putin's war, and what Jeremy Hunt, the Chancellor, did a couple of weeks ago, being realistic about what needs to be done as a result of both the pandemic and the war. Actually, in the end, of course, people can be fed up during a parliament. We've got a couple of years to go. And in that time, I believe we'll set out a very positive story about why it is that we've got the right ideas to take this country forward. And we've got time to do that. Yes, some MPs may decide they don't want to fight in another general election. As I say, that happens every cycle. And I can remember this story, by the way, every single cycle, being asked very similar questions.
Wow. Oh, now. Come on, Grant. News is on the cycle as well. It's really good. It's really good to talk to you.
You see all the same stories again.
We do. I tell you what, it's a bit like. I tell you what, though, I'm going to be in so much trouble because we're running out of time. But doesn't this remind you a little bit of mid-90s, John Major's last government?
Do you know, it really doesn't. I have not heard a compelling argument at all from the leader of the opposition as to why Labour actually wants to run this country. I don't know what the guy stands for. He definitely stood for election as an extreme Corbynite, trying to get to the left of Corbyn and promising all of those policies, has come in, now says he's something else. I'll tell you what, he's a lawyer who will take a brief and deliver it. That is what Sir Keir Starmer does. And I think actually in the end, the country wants to be led by a party that actually believes in sorting out the economy, keeping unemployment low. We've got the lowest unemployment for 50 years, and has a plan for the future. I accept we've got challenges to set all of that out. I accept that entirely. We've been through some pretty tough times, let's be honest. But I do not agree with you if you're telling me that the election in 2 years' time is lost. I don't agree with that.
Well, we shall wait and see, won't we? Look, Grant Shapps, really good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed.